We have another example on the board. First, I'm going to find voltage source. In order to find voltage source, you're supposed to realize that we have given two voltages. I mean voltage across the resistor and voltage across the capacitor. Okay? So in order to find voltage source, we're supposed to use the Pythagorean theorem. Why Pythagorean theorem? Because we have no given angles next to voltages, and anytime I solve problems like this, I always try to make the voltage source having angle 0 degrees, okay, in order to avoid confusion. So I say voltage source is equal square root, open parenthesis, VR square plus VC square. This is equal square root, open parenthesis, and I have open parenthesis, 8 volt squared plus, open parenthesis, 8 volt square, close parenthesis. This is equal 11.31 volts. Now, someone can ask why I'm using Pythagorean theorem. You're supposed to realize that anytime we draw the phasor diagram for voltages, right, in the series RC circuit, the phasor diagram is going to look like this. We have voltage across the resistor, okay, and we have voltage across the capacitor, which is 90 degrees behind the voltage across the resistor. Okay, so we talk about the right triangle. Okay, this is my right triangle, and if I'm looking for voltage source, this is going to be my voltage source. Okay, so this length is equivalent to VC. Okay, so this is my right triangle, and that's why in order to find voltage source, I'm supposed to use Pythagorean theorem. Next, we're supposed to find total current. You're supposed to realize that this is series circuit. So I total is equal to current which will go through the resistor, and is equal to the current which will go through the capacitor. Now, how we can find the current? Please notice that we have two pieces of information across the resistor. We have voltage across the resistor and we have resistance. So if you are going to divide voltage across the resistor by resistance of the resistor, you are going to find the magnitude of the current in the circuit. So I have VR equals 8 volts, and I have resistance which is equal to 2 kilo ohms. This is equal 4 milliamps. Please notice that the current which we calculate has no angle yet. We're going to find angle later on. Next, we're supposed to find the capacitive reactance, X of C. Why X of C? Because we know the voltage across the capacitor and we know the current which goes through the capacitor. We can find X of C. X of C is equal VC over IC, where voltage across the capacitor is equal 8 volts. And the current which goes through the capacitor is 4 milliamps. This is equal to 2 kilo ohms. And remember, X of C goes always with angle of negative 90 degrees. So anytime you are going to calculate the value of X of C or Z of C, you're supposed to remember about the angle negative 90 degrees. Next, we're supposed to find Z total, because we have given value of resistance and we found the value of capacitive reactance, and we know that this is series circuit. We can find the total impedance by adding resistance to the capacitive reactance, because this is series circuit. So I have resistance equals 2 kilo ohms plus capacitive reactance 2 kilo ohms and angle of negative 90 degrees. Remember, you cannot forget about the angle. Use the calculator and you're supposed to get the value of 2.82 kilo ohms and angle of negative 45 degrees. This is the value of my Z total, total impedance of my circuit. Next, we can find the angle which will go together with the current. How we can do that? Take a look. We have I total is equal voltage source over Z total. I don't care about the magnitude of my current. Why? Because I calculate this already. I will just calculate the angle. Keep in mind that voltage source has angle of 0 degrees. Z total has angle of negative 45 degrees. So we found that current total is equal to 4 milliamps. And if you are going to subtract from 0 negative 45 degrees, you are going to obtain 45 degrees. So this is the current with angle. Okay, so this is the proper answer for my current. So I'm supposed to say that I total is equal to 4 milliamps and angle of 45 degrees. This is also equivalent to the current which goes through the resistor and also is equal to the current which goes through the capacitor. Next, we're supposed to find the power factor. Power factor is equal cosine of angle theta, where angle theta is the angle which we have next to Z total. So I have cosine of angle negative 45 degrees. This is equal 0.707, and because my angle is negative, okay, I'm supposed to add the word lead. Let me remind you, lead means that the current in my circuit, okay, current in the load of the voltage source is leading the voltage source, okay? So that's why I'm supposed to put word lead. Okay, in RC circuits, current is going to always lead the voltage source. That's why you are going to always write next to the value of power factor word lead. Supposed to find the frequency of the voltage source, okay? So I'm going to use the formula for the capacitive reactance. X of C is equal 1 over 2 pi Fc. Why? Because X of C we found, C is given, 2 pi is constant, I can find F. So you're supposed to use algebra and you will obtain the formula which looks like this. Frequency is equal 1 divided by, open parenthesis, 2 pi X of C times C. Close parenthesis, plug in the values. So F1 divided by, open parenthesis, 2 pi times X of C, which is equal to 2 kilo ohms. When you calculate the frequency, you don't include the angle, times C, which is equal 20 nanofarads, close parenthesis. And this is equal 3.97 kilohertz. Okay, so this is the frequency in my circuit. Next, we're supposed to find the true power. The formula for true power says true power is equal IR square times resistance, where IR we found is equal 4 milliamps, we don't include the angle, square times resistance, which is equal to 2 kilo ohms. This is equal 32 milliwatts. And this is the value of the true power. Next, we're supposed to find the reactive power, QC, which is equal IC square times X of C. Again, we don't use angles, so we have 4 milliamps to the second power times 2 kilo ohms is equal 32 millivolt ampere reactance. This is my reactive power. Next, we're supposed to find the apparent power. S is equal I total square times Z total. This is equal 4 milliamps to the second power times Z total, which is equal 2.82 kilo ohms, and this is equal 45.12 millivolt amp. If the problem is going to ask you to draw the power triangle, you're supposed to simply draw the true power with angle of 0 degrees. P is equal 32 milliwatts. And we have reactive power. Okay, going down, we have QC equals 32 millivolt ampere reactance, and supposed to draw the apparent power S, which is equal 45.12 millivolt amp. And of course we have angle theta. This angle theta is the angle which we had next to Z total. So we can say that we found everything. The problem is solved.